Hello guys, in this lecture we are going to see thyristors and their characteristics, and also we are going to see the grids bridge and their analysis. Before starting with thyristor, I would like to go with some operating problems in HODC systems. With the growth HODC technology over the years have been impressive and resulted in several new projects all over the world. Some problems have surfaced that affected reliable operation and in few cases even led to catastrophic failures. These problems are being addressed and not likely to pose major difficulties in the adoption of HVDC technology by system planners. For that, first problems regarding converter transformers. According to the statistics of CIERE, it revealed many failures in converters transformers have been occurring, although concentrated in a few HVDC projects. The major problems are in the area of turn-to-turn failures in wall side windings, leads, and clits failures. Also, DC bushing failures. Although the failure rates of converter transformers are not too far from the failure rate of AC transformers. The consequences of the HVDC converter transformer failures on the system operation are much more severe. The effect of repetitive commutation transients has been identified as potentially harmful, particularly during high firing angle operations. This is aggravated by the effect of copper sulfide deposition on the electric field distribution. It has been shown that the commutation failures in the upper rectifier bridge may result in voltage stresses in the lower bridge in excess of the stresses causes during the DC insulation test. In addition to the commutation transient, other high frequency transients generated by adjacent systems in AC or DC systems may cause internal winding resonance that can pose the problems. These transients may be affected by substation, design layout, or grounding system, etc. Test specifications may have to be changed to ensure that transformer functions satisfactorily in service. Second problem is regarding the flashover performance of HVDC converter station insulators. Insulators such as wall bushing capacitive voltage dividers and voltage transformer suffers external flashover caused by rain, fog, snow, and ice. At some converter stations, there were several flashovers at the beginning of their operation. The maximum flashover rate occurred between 1987 and 1989, invoking about 20 flashovers per year. Most flashovers occurred in the wall bushings, followed by large diameter insulators. The wall bushing flashovers occurred mainly in the rain and at negative polarity. The application of booster shades, silicon grace coating, RTV silicon rubber coating, etc. have resulted in reducing the flashovers per converter stations by a factor of 10 to about 0.1 zero point 0.1 per station per year. Recently, dry type bushing with SF6 insulation have been developed, which are also safer from the fire risks. Third problem is regarding wall hall fires. In 1989, a converter in Itaipu HVDC system station in Brazil was totally destroyed due to a fire, probably caused by a leakage in cooling system associated with the corrosion. Subsequently, there were fires in wall halls in Rihand in India, Silmar in USA, and Gezoba in China. In the Silmar converter station of Pacific DC Intertie, the wall were completely destroyed in 1993. The adjacent wall hall had extensive smoke damage requiring much arduous clearing. Incidentally, Silmar station was also affected by the 1994 earthquake. The building having mercury arc walls was extensively damaged, although the equipment damage was not as severe as in the 1970 earthquake. There were three fires in Nankyu converter station in China that were caused by thyristor electronics, water cooled resistors of the wall reactor, and water leakage. The fire in Selmar station is also ascribed to thyristor electronics. The fire in Gezuba converter station in China was caused by loose connection between the reactor winding and copper connector. Fourth problem is regarding problems of ground return. Although ground return during the monopolar operation cuts down power losses, it can also cause problem with the buried metallic structures and three-phase AC transformers with grounded neutral. The DC current flowing through the ground can be enter the neutral and flow through the transformer windings and AC lines. The DC current flowing through the three-phase windings tend to saturate the magnetic cores unequally. The current magnitudes depends on the potential of ground mats where the transformers are located. As the magnitude increases, there is a distinct audible hum at fundamental frequency. The increase of the hum is noticeable when the DC current per phase exceeds the magnitude of the magnetizing current by the ratio of 1.2 to 1.5. At higher currents, the transformers may overheat due to increase in iron losses. The solutions to this problem are not simple. Blocking devices, that means capacitor in the shunt with the protection arresters, are generally connected between the neutral and ground mat. Sometimes the neutrals can be grounded through resistors of a few ohms. Alternatively, capacitors may be connected in series with the three phases of the line to which the transformer is connected. The problems of ground return can be avoided if we have monopolar operation with or without dedicated metallic return path. The scheme without a dedicated metallic return path is grounded only at one of the terminals and results in lowest cost. In this case, monopolar operation is feasible during the converter pole outage but not during the HVDC line conductor outage. And the second one, a restriction on the ground current flowing during the monopolar operation. Let's see the thyristor and their characteristics. Before going with the thyristor, I would like to introduce the first HVDC transmission facility was established in 1954 between the Swedish mainland and the island of Gotland at a voltage of 100 kV 20 megawatt. Till 1970, mercury arc valves were used in converter stations. With the advent of high power semiconductor devices, mercury valves have been replaced by the thyristor valves in HVDC converters. The largest device, that is SCR, silicon controlled rectifier, rating now available is in the range of 5 kV 3000 ampere. The highest DC transmission voltage has reached at plus minus 800 kV. Lately, many power electronics devices like LASCR, GTOs, and IGBTs have come into the successful operation for power conversion and control of motor drives. Among these, IGBTs used in voltage source converters have become highly suitable for HVDC application, and today many of the HVDC schemes are using IGBTs in power converter valves. So power semiconductor devices are operated in switching mode to handle high voltages and currents. A wide variety of these are presently available, covering a power spectrum ranging from 1 kilowatt to 100 megawatt. These are the pictures of thyristors, and this table shows the rating of the typical maximum rating of the thyristor or the power electronic devices available now. The term thyristor is the general name given to all controllable four-layer PNPN devices like SCR, that is silicon controlled rectifier, TRIAC, LASCR, GTO, and other derivatives. Among these, SCRs have dominated converter applications for more than 40 years. Over the years, their power capacity has increased from a few kilowatts to a few megawatt as a result of advanced technology. They have proved to the most economical. Thyristors with the special structures like symmetrical SCR, that is ASR, ACSR, reverse the conducting thyristors, that is RCT, gate assisted turn off thyristors, that is GATT, have been introduced with reduced turn off times for inverter applications. Newly developed ACSR can block up to 400 volt forward voltage. High power LASCR have been developed mainly for HVDC and static VR compensation applications, where a large number of devices is connected in series with light triggering, which provides gate circuit isolation and simultaneous triggering of all devices in a string. GTO is gate turn off thyristor. Recently development in high power GTO, that is 5 kV 3000 ampere, have led to the elimination of commutating circuit. Consequently, they are replacing other thyristors used in high power converters or inverter applications. Silicon controlled rectifier. Silicon controlled rectifier is a typical of a thyristor, is often simply referred to as a thyristor. A thyristor is a three-terminal, four-layer semiconductor device. It is diagrammatically represented and circuit symbol is shown in this figure. This figure A represents the four layers of the PNPN with the three junctions, with the three terminals anode, cathode and gate. This shows a circuit symbol of the SCR, and this is as a showing SCR is showing as a switch. The terminal connection to the end of P region is called anode. This is nothing but anode, and the terminal at the end of N region here, this is known as cathode, and the terminal connected to the P region is nothing but this is nothing but gate. When the anode is made positive with respect to cathode, then the SCR is said to be forward biased. When the anode is negative with respect to cathode, then SCR is said to be reverse bias. The SCR conducts only in one direction, that is from anode to cathode. Symbolical representation of SCR is shown in figure B and C. When the SCR is forward biased, it comes to on state only when the gate triggered pulse is given. Note that it acts as a closed circuit. When SCR is reverse bias, then it is turned off and it does not allow the current to flow in the opposite direction and acts as an open circuit. Thus, SCR is a unidirectional controlled switch. Let's see the characteristics of VI characteristics of SCR. This graph shows the VI characteristics of SCR. At first, it is non-conducting in both forward and reverse direction. As the voltage is increased in the forward direction, the leakage current does not increase appreciably until a point is reached where an avalanche multiplication begins. A slight increase of voltage would cause breakdown and SCR comes to an on state. After the SCR has been switched to on state, a certain minimum value of anode current called holding current is required to maintain the thyristor in this low impedance state. If the anode current is reduced below this critical holding current, the thyristor reverts to an off state. You can see in this figure, this showing this dotted line is nothing but holding current. The SCR has three modes of operation. First is reverse blocking mode. The SCR is said to be reverse blocking when cathode is made positive and with respect to anode. Then junction J1 and J3, as you can see here, the junction J1 and J3 are reverse biased while J2 is forward biased. The device behaves in similar manner as two diodes connected in series with reverse voltage applied across them. A small reverse leakage current of the order of few hundred microamperes flows through it. This is the reverse blocking mode, that is off state of SCR. Next is second mode, that is forward blocking. And thyristor is said to be forward biased when anode is positive with respect to cathode. Under this condition, the junction J1 and J3 are forward biased while junction J2 is reverse biased. The reverse bias on junction J2 limits the forward current to the value of forward leakage current in order of milliamperes. The thyristor is then said to be in forward block state. It means still SCR is in off state. Application of small positive gate current causes a slight increase of forward leakage current. If a large gate current is given, then SCR come to on state. Third is of forward conduction. Third mode is nothing but forward conduction. With forward bias voltage, a thyristor can be made to come to a conduction state, that is on state, using any one of the following techniques. First technique is of exceeding forward breakover voltage. Any increase in anode voltage in the absence of gate signal causes avalanche breakdown of junction J2 at a voltage called forward breakover voltage. At this voltage, the thyristor changes its state from high voltage across it with a low leakage current, that is at off state, to a low voltage across it with a large forward current whose value is limited mainly by the load impedance. This is the on state of thyristor. Next is gate current or gate triggering. This is the most common method of the triggering thyristor. When a thyristor is desired to be turned on, a suitable positive signal is applied at the gate cathode terminal. The layer at the gate is flooded by the electrons from cathode and it loses its identity as a layer. Accordingly, the thyristor becomes equivalent to a conducting diode. A positive gate to cathode current reduces the forward breakover voltage. For a given forward voltage, there is a minimum gate current at which the thyristor turns on. Once the thyristor is on, the gate current is no longer required by the device to remain in conduction, and hence a gate pulse is enough to turn on the thyristor or SCR. However, if the gate current is reduced to the zero before the anode current reaches a value called latching current, the thyristor will turn off again. Once the latching current is exceeds, the gate terminal loses its control. A thyristor cannot be turned off unless the gate signal is removed and the forward current falls below the holding current. The latching current is much higher 10 times than the holding current and can be assumed to be 3 times the holding current when not specified in the thyristor datasheet. And third one is dV by dt turn on or dV by dt rating of SCR, that is dV by dt, also called a dV by dt turn on. A thyristor may be triggered on by a rapid rate of increase of forward anode to cathode voltage in the presence of or absence of gate signal. This can be explained in terms of anode to gate and gate to cathode capacitance. A rapid rising anode voltage produces transient gate current sufficient to turn on the SCR. This type of turn on is not used. An unwanted turn on may however occur due to spurious spikes of voltages emanating from other equipment. It can be avoided by ensuring that dV by dt across the thyristor is less than the value at which it may turn on. And the last one is nothing but irradiation of gate cathode junction. A beam of light directed at the gate to the cathode junction can turn on the thyristor. This method of turn on is used in LASER. Next is Grates bridge. The basic configuration of a three-phase converter, both that is line commutator converter and voltage source converter. Line commutator means current source converter. These both bridge are also called as Grates bridge, which can be fed from transformer winding connected in star or delta. The converter transformer feeding a Grates bridge serves the objectives of providing galvanic separation between AC and DC sides, voltage transformation between AC and DC networks, and adjustment of applied AC voltage by on-tap changers, that is OLTC, on load tap changer, OLTC. Note that an auto transformer can meet the last two objectives but cannot provide galvanic separation. This figure shows the Grates bridge circuit. There are 6 switches numbered as S1, S2, S3, S4 and S6, S4, S5 and S6 in the order in which they are turned on. In a LCC, that is line commutated or current source converter, the switches are made of thyristor valves, whereas in a voltage source converter, they are made of IGBT valves. Let's see analysis of Grates bridge without overlapping. In LCC, Grates bridge is connected to three balanced sinusoidal voltage sources on the AC side and constant DC source on DC side. As shown in here figure, the three sources are connected on AC side, and on DC side one current source with the DC current source is connected on DC side. Each of the switches, this grid bridge having the switches numbered as S1, S2, S3, S4, S5, S6, as we seen in the last figure. Each of the switches S1 to S6 in the grids bridge are made of series connected thyristors devices to provide the required voltage rating. The wall is denoted by the thyristor. The wall is denoted by the thyristor symbol as shown in this here figure, which showing cathode terminal K, anode terminal A, and gate terminal G. A thyristor wall ideally can be viewed as switch which can be turned on when the terminal A anode is positive with respect to cathode K, as we seen before few minutes. Once the thyristor switch is turned on, it can be turned off only when the current through it goes zero and there is a minimum commutation margin. When the voltage across the thyristor is reverse bias, the voltage at terminal A, that is anode, is negative with respect to cathode. In modern high voltage thyristor devices rated at 8 kV and above, the margin required may be hundreds of microseconds. In general, when no gate pulse is present, the switch should be withstand both positive and negative voltages. Neglecting the losses in the thyristor walls, the voltage across the device is zero. When it is turned on and current through the device is zero when it is not conducting. In other words, the walls can be viewed as ideal switches subject to the constants mentioned above. Note that current can flow only in the one direction through the thyristor from anode to cathode when it is on. Thus, the switches S1, S3 and S5, S1, S3 and S5 carry the current towards the terminal P. Towards the terminal P. While S1, S3 and S5 towards the terminal P. While the switches S2, S4 and S6 carry the current from neutral, it is at point N. The direct current ID has to flow through the at least one wall in the upper group, that is S1, S3 and S5, and one wall in the lower group S2, S4 and S6. Neglecting the overlap between any two walls in a group, we can state that only one wall conducts in the upper group and or lower group. Thus, in a cycle of the applied AC voltage, these are 6 equal intervals as shown in this figure. These are the 6 intervals: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These are the equal intervals. We assume that the switch 3 S3 is turned on at omega t is equals to alpha. Omega t is equals to alpha. Prior to this, the switches S1 and S2, the switches S1 and S2 are conducting, and we also assume that the S1 switch S1 is turned off as soon as the switch S3 is turned on by neglecting the overlap. Overlap between the switches S1 and S3, S1 and S3 cannot be neglected if there are inductors in the circuit due to leakage reactance of the converter transformer. We will analyze the converter circuit with overlap with the help of this table shown here, which showing the DC bus voltage during each interval. This is the first interval when S2 and S3 is conducting and showing the voltage of EBC. And second interval is of S3 and S4 are conducting while S2 is turned off. Then the voltage appears with EBA. Like that, it is of total equal 6 intervals. Note that the voltage across the wall S3 is EBA, EBA, and it can be given as EBA is equal to root 2 ELL into sine of omega t. The voltage across the S3 is negative when this omega t, value of this omega t is less than 0, and become positive when the omega t is greater than 0. For a thyristor wall, we can delay the turn on by delay angle, that is alpha, by applying a gate pulse at omega t is equals to alpha. It is assumed that the delay angle alpha is constant in steady state. Then the expression for EBA can be implies that the EA is nothing but EA of t is equal to root of 2 by 3 ELL sine of omega t plus 150 degree. EB of t is equal to root of 2 by 3 ELL sine of omega t plus 30 degree, and EC of t is equal to root of 2 by 3 ELL sine of omega t minus 90 degree. Note that we assume only positive sequence supply voltages. The expression for the DC voltage and voltage across the valve 1 for each interval, which is shown in this figure, in this table. The interval 1, the conducting walls are S2 and S3, and DC voltage is of root 2 ELL sine of omega t plus 60 degree. And voltage across the valve 1, which will appear EAB is equals to minus root 2 ELL sine of omega t. For the interval 2, second interval, that is S3 and S4 conducting valves, and DC voltage is of root 2 ELL sine of omega t. EAB is appears with across the valve 1 as minus root 2 ELL sine of omega t. Similarly, this table shows the DC voltages and voltage across valve 1. Obviously, when S1, that is valve 1, is conducting, then obviously it is showing with the voltage of 0. In this figure, you can observe here the waveforms of these voltages for alpha is equals to 0 degree. Here shown alpha is equals to 0 degree, that is delay angle is of 0 degree. When alpha is equals to 45 degree, alpha is equals to 90 degree, alpha is equals to 135 degree, and alpha is equals to 180 degree are shown here. The DC voltage waveform shows that there are 6 pulses, that is cycle of ripple per cycle of the AC voltage. The pulse number for grids bridge is 6. We also note that the average DC voltage reduces as alpha increases from 0 degree to 90 degree. You can observe that here, as alpha is going to increase from 0 degree to 90 degree, the magnitude of this DC voltage is going to decrease, and with the increase of ripple. As alpha increased from 90 degree to 180 degree, the average DC voltage increases in the negative direction with the ripple constant reduces. You can see here from the 90 degree to 180 degree, magnitude is going to increase in the negative direction, but with the reduction of ripples. Let us consider the interval corresponding to the conduction of valve 2 and 3. At the beginning of the interval, valve 3 is fired, and at the end of the interval, valve 2 is turned off. Assuming the firing of valve 3 is delayed by the angle alpha, then that is alpha degree after the zero crossing of the commutation voltage of valve 3, then the voltage across that is nothing but EBA. The instantaneous DC voltage VD during that interval can be defined as VD is equal to VPN, that is of EP minus EC. So you can say that that is nothing but EBC. When in the range of omega t is greater than alpha or equal to alpha and less than equal to alpha plus 60 degree. If EBA is root 2 ELL sine of omega t, then the EBC can be defined as root 2 ELL sine of omega t plus 60 degree. Then the average DC voltage can be defined as Vd is equals to 3 by pi integration with the limit from alpha to alpha plus 60 degree root 2 ELL sine of omega t plus 60 degree. By taking the successful integration with the limits of alpha to alpha plus 60 degree, then we can conclude that Vd is nothing but Vd0 into cos alpha. This equation indicates that the different values of alpha and different values of alpha gives the different values of Vd. The range of alpha is 180 degree from 0 degree to 180 degree, and correspondingly Vd can vary from Vd0 to minus Vd0. Thus, the same converter can act as rectifier or inverter depending upon the whether the DC voltage is positive or negative. It is to be noted that this is based on assumption of continuous conduction of current by any wall over the 120-degree interval. Note that DC current flow is unidirectional. Thank you. Thank you very much.